Picture this. A janitor mops the hallway of a hospital at 3 a.m. His hands are cracked. His back is sore. His job is invisible. He's been doing this for over a decade. Every night he keeps the place clean so patients can heal. He makes just enough to pay rent and keep his family afloat. Now zoom out. On the other side of the city, a man opens a laptop in a glass tower. He trades stocks for 20 minutes, makes $1 million, and then heads to brunch. Both men live in the same world, but not the same reality. One works with his body, the other with abstraction. One is physically exhausted, the other never even sweats. One survives, the other thrives. And yet, we're told they live under the same rule. Work hard, and success will follow. But that's not true. Not even close. So the question is, why do the hardest workers often earn the least? The answer isn't just economic, it's philosophical. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. A world where suffering was glorified, where pain became a badge of honor, where obedience was dressed up as virtue. He called it slave morality, and it's still shaping your life. 1. The myth of moral labor. From childhood, we're told a story. If you work hard, stay disciplined, follow the rules, and be patient, success will come. It's comforting, predictable. It gives life a sense of order, a cause and effect. Do the right thing, and the rewards will follow. It's the story behind every school test, every job interview, every overtime shift. It's the moral foundation of the working class. And for many, it's the only thing keeping them going. But here's the hard truth. That story is a myth. Hard work doesn't always lead to reward. Sometimes it leads to burnout. Sometimes it leads nowhere. In fact, the people doing the most essential work in society are often the least rewarded. Look around. Delivery drivers racing against the clock, paid by the mile, often skipping meals to meet quotas. Nurses pulling night shifts, administering meds, saving lives, while barely affording their own rent. Single mothers working 2 or even 3 jobs, constantly tired, constantly behind, while the billionaires they serve gain more wealth in 1 hour than she does in a year. These people aren't lazy. They're not irresponsible. They are working hard, harder than most, but they're not climbing. They're drowning. And yet, the myth persists. People keep believing that if they just hold on a little longer, if they just work a little harder, they'll eventually be rewarded. They tell themselves, my time will come. Someone will notice. It'll all pay off. Why? Because letting go of that story means facing a much colder reality. The system doesn't reward morality. It rewards leverage. It doesn't ask, how much did you suffer? It asks, what do you control? The person working 14 hours a day cleaning hotel rooms? 0 leverage. The person who owns the hotel? Infinite leverage. One gets paid for presence, the other gets paid whether they show up or not. This is the game. And the hardest truth? Effort alone isn't enough. But we don't teach that. We teach kids to raise their hand, to wait their turn, to trust the system. We tell them that if they play by the rules, they'll be taken care of. But the rules were written by people who don't follow them. And when those same kids grow up, enter the workforce and start breaking their backs for jobs that barely pay the bills, they don't rebel. They blame themselves. They think, I must not be trying hard enough. I must need to sacrifice more. I must be the problem. But they're not. The problem is the lie. Nietzsche's theory of slave morality. Friedrich Nietzsche, the revolutionary 19th century philosopher, believed that most people live by values they never chose. Values handed down to them like second-hand clothing. They inherit morality the way you inherit eye color or family traditions. Unconsciously, passively, without question. But here's the part that stings. Many of those values didn't come from wisdom or strength. They came from weakness. Nietzsche believed that in the ancient world, the original values, what he called master morality, were defined by the strong, the conquerors, the free spirits. To them, good meant strength, vitality, wealth, courage, self-determination. The aristocratic man didn't apologize for his power. He didn't hide his ambition. He didn't see pride as a sin. He saw it as a sign of life. But there was a problem. Not everyone could live by those values. The weak, the oppressed, the conquered, the enslaved, couldn't compete in a world ruled by strength and action. So they did something brilliant and dangerous. They rewrote the script. They took everything they couldn't have and declared it evil. They said strength is cruel, wealth is greedy, pride is sinful, pleasure is immoral, suffering makes you holy, obedience makes you righteous. In other words, they flipped the entire value system upside down. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a morality not born from abundance but from scarcity, not from self-affirmation but from resentment, what he called ressentiment. Slave morality doesn't celebrate life, it tolerates it. It doesn't say, this is good because it empowers me. It says, this is good because it humbles others. It glorifies endurance, not achievement. It sanctifies weakness. It romanticizes suffering. But not because those traits are objectively virtuous. Because they allow the powerless to morally outscore the powerful. It's a psychological revenge. Instead of overthrowing the strong, the weak undermine them in the moral dimension. They can't compete in reality, so they rewrite reality. This morality creates a strange paradox. Those who suffer the most are seen as the most virtuous, even if their suffering produces nothing. And here's the real danger. Slave morality doesn't stop at survival. It becomes a culture, a religion, a story passed down through generations. It tells people that their suffering gives them meaning, that their humility makes them holy, that their submission is a form of superiority. Nietzsche wasn't attacking the poor. He was attacking the belief that poverty is inherently moral, that weakness deserves applause, that struggle equals sanctity. Because once you believe that, you stop trying to rise. You stop reaching, you stop growing, you stay down and call it righteousness. And eventually you forget it was a trap at all. How this morality infects work culture. Now take Nietzsche's concept of slave morality and apply it to modern work. We don't just see hard work as practical, we see it as moral. We say things like, at least I earn my money honestly. I may not be rich, but I have integrity. Those rich guys probably cheated their way there. Sound familiar? This mindset turns struggle into identity. People wear their suffering like a badge. They brag about working overtime. They glorify hustle culture. They measure self-worth by exhaustion. But Nietzsche would ask, who taught you that suffering is noble? Because someone somewhere is benefiting from your belief. The industrial reinforcement of obedience. During the Industrial Revolution, obedience became currency. Factories didn't need thinkers, they needed followers. Governments didn't want rebels, they wanted predictable citizens. So society elevated the good worker into a hero, not the creative innovator, but the one who shuts up, shows up, and sacrifices. Religions reinforced it. Education systems drilled it in, and business leaders loved it. The idea that to serve is to be good spread like wildfire, and we're still living in its smoke. Endurance is a trap. Every workplace today celebrates grit. Be the first in, last out. Go above and beyond, push through, never complain. But Nietzsche would ask, why? Why are you enduring so much, and for what? If your effort leads to freedom or growth, it has purpose. But if it leads nowhere, if it just keeps the machine running, it's not grit. It's slavery. We've been taught to admire people who suffer quietly. But silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just surrender, productivity value. Let's destroy another illusion. Being productive does not mean you're valuable. A line cook might prepare 400 meals a day. A warehouse worker might move 2 tons of boxes. A nurse might care for 20 patients on a double shift. They are productive. But are they rewarded? Compare that to a content creator who uploads once a week, or a VC who advises startups over coffee. They may produce less, but they're valued more. Why? Because they own attention. They control capital. They create perceived impact. Nietzsche warned that systems are shaped by power, not fairness. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate, what you command, what you own. Will to power versus will to approval. At the center of Nietzsche's philosophy is the will to power. It's not about domination, it's about expansion, creativity, self-overcoming. But most people today don't operate from will to power, they operate from will to approval. They work not to build something great, but to be accepted. They chase promotions, not purpose. Validation, not vision. They want bosses to notice them. Family to respect them. Society to praise them. But Nietzsche would say, stop performing, start creating. Stop asking, do they like me? Start asking, does this work reflect who I am becoming? The loyalty illusion. Loyalty used to be a virtue. Stay with the company, wait your turn, be reliable. In return, you'd get promotions, pensions, a stable life. Not anymore. Today, companies lay off loyal employees overnight. Technology replaces entire departments, and the most loyal workers are often the first to burn out. Yet people still feel guilty for quitting, as if breaking loyalty is breaking morality. But Nietzsche would say, don't be loyal to systems. Be loyal to your evolution. Any role, job, or routine that demands your loyalty while stunting your growth is not worthy of your allegiance. Quitting isn't weakness. Blind endurance is. We've moralized perseverance so much that quitting is seen as failure. But Nietzsche would argue the opposite. Blind perseverance is failure. It's the failure to evolve, the failure to question, the failure to change direction. Real strength is the courage to walk away from things that no longer serve you. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Walking away from a dead-end job is not quitting. It's realigning. It's reclaiming your life as your own. The new path, creative sovereignty. So what's the alternative? If moral labor is a lie, what do we replace it with? Nietzsche gives us a direction, not toward laziness, but toward sovereignty. The ideal life isn't one of luxury, it's one of authorship, where your actions reflect your will, where your work is creative, not just productive, where you don't serve someone else's story, you write your own. This doesn't mean leaving society, it means refusing to be defined by it. Why the hardest workers earn the least. Now we return to the question, why do the hardest workers often earn the least? Because they've been taught to see suffering as a virtue, measure value by exhaustion, trade autonomy for approval, glorify loyalty over leverage, endure instead of evolve. They've inherited a morality built to keep them tired and tame. Nietzsche's message is clear. The world will not free you. You must free yourself from moral stories, from obedient scripts, from inherited values. Burn the story that says struggle is salvation. Build a life that reflects your power, not your pain. Hard work is not the enemy, but when it becomes your identity, when it becomes your virtue, when it becomes your leash, that's when it becomes your prison. Nietzsche didn't ask you to stop working. He asked you to stop worshiping work. Stop moralizing pain. Stop glorifying struggle. Stop confusing sacrifice with purpose. You don't need to be applauded. You need to be awake. So don't just work hard. Work with power. Work with vision. Work like you own your life. Because no one will hand you freedom, but you can take it.